Welcome back, guys. I'm here to bring you my full-fledged guide to Gunslinger. We're going to cover gems, ruins, skill point allocation, rotation, and more. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright, first up, let's talk about the two build options at your disposal, which are Time to Hunt and Peacemaker. Most gunslingers just go with Peacemaker because it is the tried and true build. Time to Hunt gets rid of your shotgun stance, which one takes away from the class in my opinion, and gets rid of some of the burst abilities that are tied to the shotgun while giving more power to your handgun and rifle. Peacemaker is very mobile but requires you to be in melee range to use your shotgun for burst, whereas with Time to Hunt, you are allowed to stay at range with your rifle. In my opinion, if Gunslinger is your main, go with Peacemaker as the potential and skill ceiling is a lot higher and more fulfilling, but if Gunslinger is your ult, feel free to play Time to Hunt as it's safer and easier to play. Now let's talk about your general skill point allocation for each build, going over the early and late game. For Peacemaker, you get points into your critical strike team buffs in order to empower your rifle and shotgun damage. You won't get all critical strike buffs, but you can get the first one or two depending on how many skill points you have, then put the rest in your mega hard hitters. As you get more points, you'll acquire your other critical strike buffs, then round out a lot of your other shotgun and rifle abilities for more damage. For Time to Hunt, you can't use your shotgun, so you do have to rely on your empowered handgun and rifle stance. This build also has some fluctuations on where people put their points, so I'll put in the most used skill point build. Okay, now let's talk about stat priority for each build, first going over Peacemaker. Peacemaker is kind of a unique case where a lot of the top Korean players will fluctuate between going with some specialization or a lot of specialization, which obviously puts a dip into your swiftness and or crit. However, this game really comes down to what you have at your disposal rather than getting absolute BIS, because getting BIS usually comes down to buying from the auction house. And if you are a player that can't pay to win or play a ton, then getting full BIS stats with engravings is going to be nearly impossible. That being said, I am going to give the general stat priority to shoot for, and it's up to you as a player to see what items you are capable of getting in order to get the job done. Generally speaking, getting crit and specialization or swiftness are going to be what you shoot for, with priority going over to crit. You want about 60% crit or higher, with the rest distributed in spec or swiftness. After looking at the top ranking Peacemaker gunslingers, the amount of each stat varies depending on what engraving options are on the items, so generally speaking, shoot for crit based items and then fill out the rest of your gear with spec or even swiftness accessories. I've seen spec stacking, swiftness stacking, or even a 50-50 split between the two stats in the top 10 Peacemaker gunslinger builds, so see what is accessible for you. Time to Hunt is just as convoluted as Peacemaker, although even more so as it's the less played build, so the amount of information on it varies a lot. This build typically sees a lot of swiftness stacking, with spec being the second most used stat, followed by crit. However, there are even specialization stacking players or even crit stacking players, but I will say that generally speaking, this build will want mostly swiftness with spec and or crit. Most builds run with at least 50% swiftness with 30% spec and 20% crit. You do have to fix your low crit chance with tier sets and or engravings, where on the other hand, if you run with the high crit build, you can afford to run with a nice split between spec and swiftness. The next crucial part I will talk about are the class engravings for each build, starting with Peacemaker. This part is quite easy, as top tier Peacemaker gunslingers generally run the same build. As you can see, in the S tier you will want Grudge, Cursed Doll, Adrenaline, Hitmaster, Keen Blunt Weapon, and lastly, of course, your class engraving. The main alteration I see is when you either run with level 3 Peacemaker or level 1 Peacemaker. Depending on your situation, you can run either, but if you run level 3 Peacemaker, you will only have level 2 Adrenaline, and if you run level 1 Peacemaker, you can run with level 3 Adrenaline. The preferred build among Korean players is only with level 1 Peacemaker. Now we can talk about Time to Hunt, which is actually one of the few cases where people could run with both class engraving. In the S tier, you will have the tried and true engravings, which are Time to Hunt, Peacemaker, Adrenaline, Grudge, Raid Captain, and Keen Blunt Weapon. Honorable mentions going to Cursed Doll and Heavy Armor for the defense. If you don't run Raid Captain, then Cursed Doll is what you can run instead. If you run with high swiftness, I recommend using Raid Captain, as you'll be able to utilize the engraving to its highest effectiveness, whereas if you opt for the high crit build and with lower swiftness, you can of course run with Cursed Doll. Additionally, the engraving choice splits into two more options for how you want to build your character. You can either take level 3 in Peacemaker or leave it at level 1. If you run with level 3 Peacemaker to go along with your level 3 Time to Hunt, then you will have to only get level 2 in Adrenaline or Raid Captain, depending on what you choose. On the other hand, if you run level 1 Peacemaker, you can then get your other engravings to level 3. Either option can net you a top rank spot, so choose whichever playstyle is at your disposal. We can now talk about gems, starting with Peacemaker. Like with pretty much every class, you will want to get the damage and cooldown reduction gems for your hard hitters, and for Peacemaker Gunslingers, those abilities are going to be Focus Shot, Target Down, and Perfect Shot, along with Double Buckshot and Sharpshooter. The last gem will be a damage gem on either Last Request or Shotgun Rapid Fire, depending on which gem you get. For Time to Hunt, the main idea is the same. You get your damage and cooldown gems on Focus Shot, Target Down, and Perfect Shot. But now you can choose where to put your other gems in your pistol abilities. For optimal damage, you want cooldown and damage gems in Bullet Rain and Meteor Stream, with a cooldown gem in Quick Step for the movement speed and attack speed buff, which will work wonders for a damage window when comboed with Raid Captain. Let's move forward to runes for Peacemaker. Unlike with Time to Hunt, Peacemaker can have some big fluctuations for their rune choice, primarily on where you put your Galwind runes. You can either put 2 or 3 Galwind runes on your rifle abilities, with priority on Focus Shot as it takes the longest to get off. On the other hand, you can put your Galwind runes on your big shotgun abilities in Double Buckshot and Sharpshooter, while still maintaining 1 Galwind rune in Focus Shot. Some builds even utilize basically full Galwind runes, even a blue quality on all your hard rifle and shotgun abilities. For your pistol abilities, there is a bit of leeway. For example, with your Spiral Tracker ability, you can run Conviction with Judgment on Dexterous Shot or Quick Recharge. I'll leave the options up to you for what runes that you have at your disposal. For Time to Hunt runes, you will want to get Galwind runes on your main rifle abilities, with the exception of Catastrophe, where you will run an Overwhelm rune. For your pistol abilities, you will want Conviction and Judgment on Spiral Tracker and Bullet Rain, followed by an Overwhelm rune on Meteor Stream, and lastly, you'll want to get 1 Rage rune on Quick Step. We can now talk about the card sets, which thankfully are exactly the same as with the other DPS classes. To keep it simple, your budget card set will be Lost Twin Cliff, and your massive DPS card set will be Light of Salvation. I talked about this in my other video, but because card sets are super RNG dependent, you will get Lost Twin Cliff way before Light of Salvation. So just to get Lost Twin Cliff, and then eventually work towards a Light of Salvation. Onto the fun bit, we can discuss the rotations for the 2 class engravings, which kind of play the same in that you buff yourself in your pistol stance, then switch to either your rifle or shotgun forms to do your burst, with filler going into your pistol form. During downtime, which won't really happen in the end game, but will happen in early tier 1 and tier 2, when you don't have gems and high swiftness, the rotation looks like this. You use your Spiral Tracker, followed by Target Down, Focus Shot, and Perfect Shot, then use Equilibrium or Dexterous Shot, followed by Dual Buckshot, Sharpshooter, and then Shotgun Rapid Fire. If you have a low attack speed and low quality Galwind runes, you can save Perfect Shot for another debuff window. Your stagger rotation for this class is basically using Spiral Tracker, Equilibrium, or Dexterous Shot, followed by Catastrophe or Last Request. Also, remember to save your spacebar dodge in order to cancel your rifle and shotgun abilities that place you in long animations, because that is the only way to dodge an ability mid-cast. For dodging the boss abilities, you can use Quick Step, Somersault Shot, Peacekeeper, and Dexterous Shot in order to reposition when dodging. Somersault Shot and Quick Step are the fastest ways to dodge. Gunslinger is very squishy, so failing to save your dash will often result in half your HP or more gone. Now we can focus on the rotation of Time to Hunt, which of course is similar to the Peacekeeper rotation. You want to use Spiral Tracker, Dexterous Shot, or Equilibrium to debuff the boss, Then use Quick Step for the attack speed and movement speed buff that works well with Raid Captain, followed by Target Down, Focus Shot, and Perfect Shot. When your rifle abilities are on cooldown, switch to your handgun and use these abilities. And that's that, the full Gunslinger guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it, as it does take a lot of work to do these videos along with the research. If this guide helped you, please remember to leave a like, comment, and or subscribe, as it helps me a lot. Anyways guys, that'll be it for me today. I'm out.